Hello everyone, my name is Elle. Welcome to an Elle Tells. This is a series I started a long time ago so that I can just chat with you guys about topics that are on my mind. So today I really want to talk about beauty gurus and consumerism. I'll just preface this by saying I'm still a little off and a little shaky right now. I mentioned in the community tab that I wasn't going to be uploading for a couple of days because of some not so nice experiences. You know, I'm a person who does this for fun, and I like to talk to people, and when you're met with really mean people, not people who are providing constructive criticism, but just flat out mean trolls, it's hard. So I'm still not feeling myself. I thought I was kind of over it, and I'm not over it. So anyway, we're just gonna try and address this issue that I want to talk about because I've seen it come up a lot lately, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with a lot of the stuff that I've been hearing when it comes to beauty gurus and consumerism, because I feel like there's a lot of finger pointing and there's a lot of blaming. You know, I keep hearing about how beauty gurus and influencers have a lot of stuff and buy a lot of stuff and are sent a lot of stuff and encourage spending, and it's their fault and their problem that you bought this thing that you didn't need. And I just wanted to step back for a moment and just hear me out here. But are we the problem? And by we, I mean viewers, subscribers, followers. Not because we follow people, but how we interact with them. And I am gonna be saying stuff like we and you a lot, and I know that this might not necessarily be your specific experience, so please don't get offended if this doesn't apply to you. I just spent a little bit of time going through the comment sections of some of the big beauty gurus, the big influencers. I mean, the top of the top. Their comment sections are very interesting places. If you ever want to take a visit there, they're interesting. But I was scrolling through looking to see comments from people who were encouraging spending. And within minutes, I found dozens of examples. And I'm not going to share screenshots or anything because I'm not comfortable doing that kind of thing here. But if you go on any of those videos, look through the comments, you can find examples really quickly. And I mean things like, are you going to purchase product X? Are you going to purchase product X because I want to see you review it? Or I hope you get product X because you're the only person I trust. Can you compare product X to product Y? I've even seen a lot of highly liked comments about drugstore dupes. A lot of people want to see drugstore dupe videos. But those can be quite costly too, and can mean quite an accumulation of stuff. It means buying or accessing in some way these products to try them to see what is a dupe. If you really want to be thorough about it, you're not just going to pick a foundation off the shelf at the drugstore and be like, close enough. You're going to have to try a bunch of different things to see what works. And yes, some things might have come from PR, but not everything. So there's a lot of trial and error there when it comes to like drugstore and affordable dupes. It's not that easy. It's really not, because there's so much extra work and time and effort and money that would have to go into it to make sure that it's actually a dupe and not just something that was kind of close. I've noticed something that's kind of interesting, and there's almost two groups of people. The people who are pushing to buy and the people who are pushing not to buy anything, not to use things. Like there's people who want or almost expect people who make beauty videos to have this encyclopedic knowledge of every brand, formula, type of product available, but they don't want them to have it. They don't want them to try everything. They just want them to like magically know this stuff. Like some people are encouraging buying, and some people are like, don't buy anything else, you have too much, use what you have. But there's only so much you can do with that. Really, I mean, people want content so quickly. They want it so often. People's attention spans are almost non-existent anymore. They want new, or else you're forgotten. And somebody can't do the same thing every day. Yes, I know a lot of like video formulas are the same, but I mean, you can't do the exact same video talking about the same product. Can you imagine doing a review on the same exact product every single day? You can't do that. Even a tutorial, you would run out of ideas soon enough. You know, if you have an eyeshadow palette with 10 shades, there's quite a bit you could do with that, but you would run out of ideas and people would get bored of it. I just feel like I've seen examples of this so often. And there are different levels of influencers and beauty gurus. I'm kind of using these terms interchangeably because I'm not strictly talking about YouTube, although mostly YouTube, but I do feel like there's quite a large group of very popular and influential Instagram beauty people, but I feel like it is a different creature than YouTube is. But you have like top level influencers where it's their job. You know, they're the people who get sponsorships, who get PR, who go on meet and greets and possibly brand trips and all that stuff. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have people who would be considered hobbyists, who do this for fun, who would still be considered, at least on some level, an influencer. And I would be one of those people. I would be considered a micro-influencer. I really don't like that label, but it is what it is. Even though I don't like it, it doesn't mean it's not true. Because really, anybody who starts putting their opinions out there can start influencing people in one way or another. Now, I'm not traditional by any means, and I'm not a minimalist, and I'm not anti-stuff. You know, I've tried to be somewhat of a voice for smarter shopping, smarter consumption, but it's tricky sometimes. And it's difficult for me to define exactly because it's not about not purchasing at all, but just not purchasing excessively. And I know that I definitely purchase a lot more, not just makeup, but definitely makeup, because of YouTube, because of what I choose to do as my hobby. It does involve quite a bit of consumption because of what I want to do. If I buy accessories or clothes or whatever other things go on that I might consume a little bit more excessively because I choose to make videos or post on Instagram or whatever it is. And the thing is, even if somebody does label themselves as a minimalist, which I said I don't. I have a lot of stuff and I don't mind having a lot of makeup because I like to play around with it. You know, I'm not going to be like a one foundation or one lipstick kind of girl. But anyway, even if they do label themselves as that, they can still be considered an influencer. I feel like it's so important to mention this because I feel like people only think of influencers as those people who are like, use my affiliate code, buy this product, you need this, I'm obsessed, you have to have it. But then there's people who are on the other side of that who do accept product for review, who do occasionally accept PR. I am one of those people. I don't feel bad about it. It allows me to try things that I wouldn't necessarily be able to. It allows me to make connections within an industry that I'm passionate about in some cases, you know, so I don't feel bad about that, but I know there's a whole lot of issues with PR and trust, being able to trust somebody, and that's not what this video is about though. But my point is, even with those hobbyist people, those people who might be a little bit more critical of the industry, there's still a lot of don't buy this instead. So you still are influencing people on some level, even in anti-hauls, in products I regret, stuff like that. You see it all the time. You don't need this because you can have this instead. This is, I would not like this, or I tried this and didn't like this, but this is what worked for me instead. You're still giving recommendations. You're still potentially influencing people. Even simply talking about favorites can have an influence on your purchasing choices if you believe what that person is saying, if you trust their opinions. You know, if someone is known for being a little bit more critical, their opinion and their review might hold a little bit more weight for you than someone else does. And surprise, brands know this. It's no surprise that people who are critical of the industry are getting offered more PR, because in the off chance that they do like it and they speak positively about it, it's going to have a lot of weight, even if the numbers don't necessarily match somebody else. Ultimately though, it's your decision, your choice, whether or not a product is worth having. So if it is your decision and your choice, why are we so quick to blame beauty gurus? Obviously, it's easy to shift the blame to somebody other than yourself. Nobody wants to take ownership of something that's largely considered to be wrong. And purchasing an abundance of cosmetics, of beauty products, is largely considered wrong. Generally because it's assumed that you can't afford it. You're living beyond your means. Because then on the other side, it can be seen as a status symbol, as you see with some people who have a lot of designer items. It's seen as a status thing, and neither one of those are good. And so it's all about shifting the blame. It's not my fault, I was influenced by them. And at some level, this might be projection, because the blame game is a defense mechanism. It allows you to maintain your sense of self-respect, because the flaw isn't yours, right? It's the big bad beauty gurus. The truth is, until you take ownership of your choices, it's gonna keep happening. Beauty gurus aren't gonna be changing anytime soon. The industry isn't gonna be changing anytime soon. And yes, influencers use tactics intended to sell products because it's their job. Watch any episode of Shark Tank or even Dragon's Den and see how many times social media is mentioned. Influencers make brands so much money. And in case you didn't know, brands love money. And the beauty industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's just increasing every single year. And influencers are relatable, or inspirational, or aspirational, or goals. And these endorsement deals with influencers translate to big bucks for the influencer in question sometimes, but definitely the brand. And you know, endorsements aren't anything new. You can trace it back to the 1700s. The first sort of noted example of using a celebrity endorsement, Josiah Wedgwood had royalty endorse his fine china in the 1700s. It's like 1760 something, you know, so that's not going away. And traditional celebrities, and by that I mean like athletes, artists, musicians, actors, those traditional celebrities still have a lot of endorsement deals, but it's definitely a different relationship because they're not as accessible as these online celebrities. So traditional celebrities, for lack of a better word, a lot of the times they don't have social media, or what they do have is run by somebody else and not them. And online people, for better or worse, are their own brands. They tend to run everything themselves. So there can be a pretty strong connection there that there wouldn't be somewhere else. And I see a lot of the times people talk about how like this influencer seems like their friend, or how they could be somebody they could get a drink with, or whatever it is that they really relate to or connect to with, and it makes them feel like they have to have all of these things that are recommended, because if they would like it, I would too. And it's all well and good when it turns out well and the product recommended works as well for you as the influencer said it worked for them, but sometimes it doesn't work that well. And it's not always the influencer's fault. Even if they're waving around their affiliate code, you still did not have to make that purchase. You were not forced to go to that website and place that order and use their code. Maybe there was a problem with the product, or maybe it was simply a matter of a different skin tone, a different skin type, maybe as simple as a difference in makeup preferences, but you just felt like you had to have it, or you wanted to support them. And you don't owe them anything. You're not their friend and you're not their employer. You don't have to buy these things that they recommend. You might want to. You might want to support them in their collabs or their own lines or whatever it is, but you don't need to. And I think that's a clear difference to make there. I do think, perhaps naively, that a lot of influencers do have good intentions. And I think if there's a track record there of recommending poorly performing products, they're going to lose that reputation they have. They're going to lose their influence. They're going to lose their power. So I don't think it's necessarily that the product isn't good. It just might be that it doesn't work for you. This is not always the case. You know, there are times when it's blatant, when there's a lot of like kissing ass to stay on a PR list. And I think there has to be some blame on the brands as well for this, because if a brand was willing to accept constructive criticism, then reviewers wouldn't feel that pressure to say nice things all the time and to sugarcoat everything, to mention the flaws but quickly cover them up because they're afraid of being taken off of a PR list. And why is being taken off of a PR list so bad? I know this isn't about PR, but I feel like it's kind of related to each other. And just being taken off of a PR list could be bad for a few different reasons. It could perhaps tarnish your reputation with the brand, which shouldn't happen, but it might. It could also influence things like future videos. It might be harder to get products. It could have an impact on your money if you are used to getting these products early and being able to pump out reviews pretty quickly. We're not talking about first impressions versus reviews here, but you know, first come, first serve. When a product is announced and people are looking for reviews, the first ones that come up are the ones that get the attention. If you get a product, it comes out and you don't get it for a couple of weeks later, not as many people are going to watch the review. People are not going to be waiting and waiting and waiting because they're going to have watched other things. So you kind of miss that opportunity there. So there's a lot of things, I'm assuming, that could go on with being kicked off of a PR list, because I would imagine it's also probably pretty hard to get back on it. I do think that these influencers have to be very careful with how they approach topics like that, how they approach criticizing a brand, because it doesn't necessarily just impact their relationship with that brand. It could impact their relationship with a number of other brands, because with those pro influencers, people are watching all the time who are related or connected in some way to these brands. And so if someone goes on an attack of one brand, it could affect how other brands view them as well. So of course they're going to be careful about it. It's their job. You know, I feel like a lot of people forget that this is where a lot of people's income is coming from. Their relationships with brands, doing sponsored videos. They're not just going to go on a crazy tirade about how they don't agree with certain decisions that were made. So you have to understand that that's part of it as well. And that just means that you as a consumer have to view things a little bit more critically. I think we, in general, need to recognize what our expectations are and manage them a little bit better without projecting. You know, we can't expect these influencers to be using nothing but discontinued or limited edition products if they can't sell it anymore. It does not make sense when their job is to sell product, or at least part of their job is to sell product. It doesn't make sense. But here's the thing, you don't have to buy those things anyway. You don't even have to know what is on a guru's face. You can recreate a look without knowing exactly what the products are. Yes, sometimes it's helpful because it might help you be able to dupe something a little bit better from what you have, but you don't have to have the exact products in question. If they're doing a blue smoky eye, pull out your blue shadows. I think once you start to recognize these things, it gets a little easier to handle. And I know there's a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out, that goes on here. And I did a whole video talking about FOMO, so I will link that down below in case you're interested. But just in general, I feel like when you recognize those things, when you can understand a little bit what FOMO is and kind of get over it, the fun comes back. I can watch beauty gurus now without feeling like my life has no value because I don't have the same stuff that they have. You know I'm not going to look like certain people that I watch. I just know it's not possible. It's not possible. I am not going to look like them. You know, and sometimes you kind of get caught up in it and you think like, yes, if I buy the exact same products, it will work. It will work. I can just like sit back and watch Netflix and I will instantly transform into the people that I idolize, and it just doesn't work that way. I do admittedly watch a little less YouTube than I did before because I tend to view things a little bit more critically, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I just will say that I do watch some things a little bit less. And I've got to say that there's a lot to be aware of, and I am learning every single day. Every day something changes and I don't have the same viewpoint as I did before. And that's growth. You know, I've talked shit before. I've talked from places of jealousy and just pure bitterness, and that got me absolutely nowhere. I truly think if consumers purchase less, there will be less production. The beauty industry exploded so quickly, it seems, and there's just this ever increasing demand for product. It's produced quickly, it's released quickly, and then it disappears just as fast. As soon as a product is teased, consumers are just absolutely clamoring for it. It's also fast-paced that if you even take a minute to breathe, it feels like you've been left behind. So, again, are we, consumers, part of the problem? Yes, absolutely. But on a positive note, I do feel like there are more voices now against excessive consumerism. And I'm sure that other people have addressed some of these points already. There's just bound to be some repetition here. There are certain things you have to address with these issues and certain things that are going to get repeated, and there's going to be crossover for people. Just want to say that because sometimes I get accused of stealing ideas from people, and I did not steal this from anybody. A couple of sources from like Wikipedia and some like databases I searched, but I didn't rip anybody off. That's a topic for another video. I was gonna do that one too, talking about idea theft and pulling inspiration from people and when to credit, and that's a whole other can of worms. But anyway, I'm sure there's many points I missed as well because this is such a complex issue with many, many layers. So I'd love to hear from you. If there's anything you think I should know, if you have any resources for me, anything I should check out. I love learning. I am constantly learning and growing, and I've learned so much from having really thoughtful discussions with people in the comment section and reading discussions that people have. So I would really strongly encourage that. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for spending some time with me today, and I hope we get a chance to chat soon. Bye for now.